गुड इवनिंग दोस्तों, नमस्कार. I will ask you a question at the very beginning. आप लोग किस तरह से डिसीजन लेते हो जिंदगी में और at your workplace? How do you take decisions? Do you come to a quick conclusion or you take a lot of time to give a response to a particular situation? क्या आप जल्दी से रिस्पॉन्स दे देते हो या टाइम लेते हो रिस्पॉन्स देने में at your workplace? So, hello everyone. Good evening once again. My name is Dhritiman Chakrabarti. And just to give you a little introduction, I'm an author. I'm also a trainer. And I'm an ICF certified life coach. My area of expertise is to work with people, working professionals, helping them to grow in their career. And that's what I love to do. So as you could have understood, today we are actually going to talk about the thinking aspect of your career, of your profession. तो हम लोग थिंकिंग के बारे में बात करने वाले हैं आज. Now, as I always say, please participate in the process if it is feasible, if it is possible for you in this discussion. Share your likes, obviously. I love them, as I always say. मुझे अच्छा लगता है जब आप लाइक्स बटन दबाते हो. But at the same time, जो सबसे ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट है वो है आप पार्टिसिपेट करो in terms of commenting, writing about your opinion. एंड आपका जो कमेंट होगा, जो भी ओपिनियन होगा, मैं यहाँ पे स्क्रीन में शेयर करूंगा सबके लिए. So with that, let me come to today's topic. We said that today we are going to talk about critical thinking. हम लोग critical thinking के बारे में बात करेंगे. Now on this particular topic, I also covered a few weeks back, but that time I touched upon critical thinking from another angle. Today the intention हम लोग का ये है कि हम लोग थोड़ा सा डीपर जाएंगे critical thinking के ऊपर. So what are the things that we are going to cover? So we are going to cover these various aspects in today's talk. कि critical thinking है क्या चीज? फिर हम लोग बात करेंगे some of the examples of critical thinking at workplace. And then हम लोग ये भी देखेंगे कि critical thinking इंपॉर्टेंट क्यों है आपके लिए जानना, और ये स्किल किस तरह से डेवलप की जा सकती है. हाउ यू कैन डेवलप द स्किल ऑफ क्रिटिकल थिंकिंग. सो वी विल फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट क्रिटिकल थिंकिंग इज ऑल अबाउट. देन वी विल लुक इनटू सम एग्जांपल्स ऑफ क्रिटिकल थिंकिंग सिनेरियोज एट वर्कप्लेस. देन वी विल लुक इनटू व्हाई इट इज इंपॉर्टेंट एंड हाउ डू यू डेवलप इट. राइट. सो ये हमारा ओवरऑल टारगेट रहेगा. Yes, Yogesh ji, hi. Great to see you there. And thanks for being there all the time. Really love your presence there. Thank you so much. Coming back to the topic, yes, so these are the 4 things we are going to talk about today. Now, when we are on this topic of critical thinking, let me share a lot of studies have been done, a lot of surveys have been done, right? ये जो लीडरशिप स्किल होता है या जो मैनेजरियल स्किल होता है, ये ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में किस तरह से आप सक्सेसफुल हो सकते हो, उसके ऊपर lot of surveys have been done over many years, right? ये लोग क्या करते हैं सर्वे करने वाले, they ask a few questions to professionals, to career oriented people, to executives, and basis what kind of responses people give, they come to certain conclusions in terms of कि क्या करना चाहिए आपको लाइफ में, और लोग क्या चाहते हैं, लोग क्या सोचते हैं रिगार्डिंग career related issues, that how to develop your career, etc., right? So there was some study that was done a few years back. It was done by अमेरिकन मैनेजमेंट एसोसिएशन, इन लोगों ने एक स्टडी किया था कि यू नो व्हाट आर द 4 एसेंशियल लीडरशिप स्किल्स, वो 4 लीडरशिप स्किल्स क्या है, एंड people gave certain responses. Those responses that came lists down 4 very critical leadership skills जो हर किसी के लिए इंपॉर्टेंट है, इसको डेवलपमेंट करना चाहिए if you want to become a good manager, a leader who actually delivers result to the organization. So what are these skills that they talked about? Yeah, so Yogesh ji, you are right. You can be a troubleshooter by critical thinking. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And yeah, you are also saying if you have this skill, you can be a troubleshooter in personal and professional life both ways. So thanks for sharing your comments. Thank you so much. So this 4 essential leadership skills जो सर्वे में आया था, the first skill they talked about is communication. Bang on, you know it already, right? आपको पता है कि communication बहुत important होता है at your workplace, as one of the very important leadership and managerial skills. Communication का मतलब, it doesn't mean that how fluently you speak English. As you can see me, I don't speak a fluent English. But communication का मतलब ये होता है that how do you pass on the message to the other person effectively in a manner that the purpose of the message is served. That's important. नहीं तो इतना कुछ बोल दिए जो एक्चुअली समझाना था उस बंदे को वो समझ में नहीं आया. So there is no point speaking fluent English but not being able to pass on the message that you wanted to pass on. So communication is one of the very, very important leadership and management skill. What was the next skill that the survey gave? Yes, the next skill was related to collaboration, to be able to work in team. Well, this is so very important for people, leaders, managers, anybody who wants to grow in their career. It's very, very important skill of to be able to work with different kind of people. So when you work in an organization, you don't choose, right? I want to work with only a C and Mr. J. I don't want to work with anybody else. Well, you cannot choose like that. You are given a team or you are a part of a team and you have to deliver result. So आपके पास 2 choice हो सकते हैं, either उनके साथ काम करो नहीं तो जॉब छोड़ दो. So obviously I'm not going to tell you कि job छोड़ने वाला option. So you have to work and you need to learn how to work in a team. So that collaboration skill is very, very essential skill. The third skill that people talked about in that survey is creativity. Creativity is another very important essential skill. It helps not only in your personal life, in your day-to-day life, in your family life, but it works at your workplace also. How creative you are, how you can invent नए things, how you can invent new ideas. आप नयापन कैसे ले आते हो काम करने के तरीके में, right? So you need to have that creativity. That is another very, very essential leadership skill or managerial skill. The fourth thing that came up is what we are talking today. The fourth skill talks about critical thinking, and that's what we are going to cover today. So, bang on, that's what we are going to talk about. Let's start. So, we said that we are going to talk about 4 things about critical thinking, right? The first thing is obviously to begin with the definition. क्या चीज है ये critical thinking? Now, हिंदी में इसका एक्चुअली आई डोंट नो डायरेक्ट मीनिंग क्या निकलेगा, बट मतलब ऐसी सोच जो जिसमें आपने बहुत सोच समझ के कुछ निकाला. So maybe that can be a sort of a translation. I'm sure that there are people who knows very good Hindi here. So you can also write a comment that what can be a possible Hindi translation of critical thinking. Well, if we look into the definition of critical thinking, uh, there are so many definitions. You'll be getting it online if you search in the Google. And critical thinking is one of very famous, very popular term that people search on Google. So if you look at multiple definitions, I just tried to pick up from here and there and try to put it in a particular sentence in a definition form, and that's what I'm going to share with all of you. Critical thinking is considered to be a process. ये एक प्रोसेस है. क्रिटिकल थिंकिंग एक प्रोसेस है. किस तरह का प्रोसेस? इट्स अ प्रोसेस ऑफ conceptualizing, analyzing, synthesizing and evaluating information. आप इसमें इंफॉर्मेशन को कॉन्सेप्चुअलाइज करते हो, मतलब इंफॉर्मेशन को so that you can understand, you put that information in the form so that it can be understood, ताकि इंफॉर्मेशन को समझ में आ सके, so that आप इसको conceptualize कर सको. And then उस information को so that you can analyze the information, you can synthesize, you can put it into multiple parts, and then you can evaluate that particular information which is gathered. किस तरह से information आया? The information is gathered through observation, experience, reflection, रीजनिंग एंड कम्युनिकेशन. इस तरह से वो इंफॉर्मेशन कलेक्ट किया आपने. किस तरह से इंफॉर्मेशन कलेक्ट किया? यू ऑब्जर्व समथिंग ओवर ए पीरियड ऑफ टाइम एंड यू गैदर्ड सम डेटा. देन बेस्ड ऑन योर life experience or your professional experience, you gather certain information. Then based on reflection, कोई चीज लेके आपने सोचा, अच्छा ये ऐसा होता है, ऐसा होता है, ऐसा कैसे होता है, तो आपने वो रिफ्लेक्ट किया. Then you reasoned it, अच्छा ऐसा होने से तभी ना वैसा होगा, so something like that. And then obviously communication, आप लोगों से बात किया, लोगों को सवाल पूछा, information collect किया. So that's how you do critical thinking. That is the definition of critical thinking. So let me just repeat once again. Critical thinking is the process of conceptualizing, analyzing, synthesizing, and evaluating information which is gathered by observing, experiencing, reflecting, reasoning, and communicating. Yes, Yogesh ji, I think you have mentioned विश्लेषण करके निर्णय लिया. So ये हिंदी उसका translation निकलता है. Thanks for sharing that. This is also my learning. And yeah, you have written also विश्लेषण का मतलब है exploring various options and informed decision. Fantastic, fantastic. Thanks a lot for sharing that. Now, we understood now कि ये critical thinking का definition है. क्वेश्चन आता है, चलो डेफिनेशन तो बहुत ज्यादा इंग्लिश हो गया, तो उसको प्रैक्टिकल लाइफ में किस तरह से समझे? हाउ डू वी अंडरस्टैंड इन द प्रैक्टिकल लाइफ सिनेरियो कि व्हाट इज क्रिटिकल थिंकिंग? एंड आई थिंक ये तभी हमें पता चलेगा जब हम लोग थोड़ा सिचुएशंस को देखेंगे. व्हेन वी लुक इनटू रियल लाइफ एग्जांपल ऑफ क्रिटिकल थिंकिंग बीइंग इन यूज, राइट? Let's we will look at a situation where you can apply actually critical thinking. Now मान लीजिए कि आपके ऑफिस में there is a meeting that is happening wherein how to develop the sales of the organization. There is a brainstorming session or a discussion is happening with the top management and you are a part of that particular meeting. आप उस मीटिंग में बैठे हुए हैं, सब लोग बात करें कि किस तरह से सेल्स को बढ़ाया जाए, रेवेन्यू को किस तरह से बढ़ाया जाए. And somebody is presenting, these are the things we are actually planning in the coming months so as to increase or improve the revenues. Now, मान लीजिए you are that person who is giving that presentation that we are planning to go into new territories and that's how we are going to expand our market. We are going to increase our sales. Somebody, when you are giving a presentation, somebody raises his or her hand and tells you, Why don't we use social media to expand our business, to expand our revenue? किसी ने पूछा आपसे. Now, this is a situation, this is a scenario जहां पे आप critical thinking use करके जवाब दे सकते हो. Now, in that particular situation, some people at your place might respond कि no, social media I cannot use. Social media use करके हमारा type of business cannot be increased. So it is impossible to use social media. So your idea cancelled. खत्म. बैठ जाओ चुपचाप. कुछ नहीं हो सकता. So that is one way of responding. Now, if you respond in that way, you are not a critical thinker. So to be a critical thinker, when that question comes, possibly some of the things that you can do, you can ask a few questions to that person to understand his or her idea in a better way. Possibly, so Mr. So-and-so or Miss So-and-so, why do you think that social media can be helpful in improving our business? Why do you think so? So possibly that person will be explaining his or her idea that why he or she thinks that social media can be used. You can also ask that, have you used social media to increase your business revenues? So possibly that person might share some experience. Or another thing that you can do is that you can take some time telling that person, okay, give me a week's time. Let me evaluate this idea that you have given. And after that, I come back to all and will tell you whether as an organization we can use social media to increase our sales or not. And that will be a true representation of critical thinking at workplace. Now, कुछ और situations में आपको शेयर करता हूं. मान लीजिए आपके मैनेजर ने आपको पूछा कि we are having this particular problem with this person or with this particular business situation, क्या करना चाहिए, कुछ सजेशन दो ना. आपने क्या बोला? You immediately gave a suggestion. What can be a situation? So we are talking about your manager is asking you a question कि ये हमारा एक problem हुआ है workplace में. So can you give some solution? For example, our system is not working today. Our system is not working today. What do I do to continue the sales? अरे सर ऐसे हाथ में लिख के बिलिंग कर दो ना. मैंने तो solution दे दिया immediately. Question is, have I thought through that response, that solution that I am giving to my manager when this question is asked? My answer, the way I answer, will actually determine that whether I'm using a critical thinking to give that solution or not, or I'm simply saying something. So friends, there can be so many different situations at a workplace wherein आपको एक decision लेना पड़ता है. At that decision making situation, at that opinion building situation, how you approach in finding solution and in giving that opinion determines that whether you are applying critical thinking at workplace or not. हम लोग कभी कभी अपना रिस्पॉन्स देने में इतना जल्दबाजी में होते हैं कि नहीं, मतलब 5 लोग हैं, आई वांट टू गिव द रिस्पॉन्स, मैं सबसे पहले मैं, मुझे रिस्पॉन्स देना है. एंड in the process we end up giving a response which may not be appropriate response to that problem, and thereby, even though we got the opportunity to speak first, because we did not apply a proper critical thinking to give that response, our response may not be accepted or may not be considered as a valuable response. So, friends, that's how a situations at workplace may come, which may test your ability to put critical thinking at work. So, yes, Yogeshji, you're right. Generally, we react, don't respond, and that's so common with us. That's so common with us. Even I end up doing in certain situations. I'll be in a hurry to give a response, right? मुझे तो response देना है, सब लोग दे रहे हैं, मैं कैसे चुप रह सकता हूँ? I end up giving a response and later on realizing that if I would have taken some little bit more time thinking about it, maybe I could have given a better logical reasoning based response instead of a hurried response. And you're right, reaction can be immature. Many a times when we give an immediate reaction in the form of a response, it can be very immature. You know, many a times at workplace, our emotions takes the higher stage compared to our brain, and we end up taking decision or giving responses on the basis of quick emotion. Most of the times, not all of the times though, most of the times such decisions will not be good decisions. So those are the situations at workplace. Thanks a lot, Yogesh ji, for sharing your thoughts, your ideas. I'll request others also, you can share your thoughts, your ideas, and we'll be talking about, we'll be taking your points also. So now the next point, as we said, that we are also going to discuss that why critical thinking is important. I think by now you could also able to list down that why critical thinking is important, right? Because we have given scenarios. We have also talked about that in those scenarios, what you are supposed to do versus what you can end up doing, which may not be the right thing to do. So why critical thinking is important? Well, there are certain points that I'll be sharing with you. I'm going to list down 3 points why it is important. Number one, it provides multiple solutions to a problem and it can mitigate risk. Well, how? Through critical thinking, आप एक particular problem के लिए your mind can think of ये भी हो सकता है, ये भी हो सकता है. So you can come up with multiple solutions. Now, these multiple solutions can also help mitigate risk. एक business situation आ गया आपके सामने, आपको वहां पे एक decision लेना पड़ रहा है, right? उस decision लेने के time में sometimes risk is involved. That if you take this decision, business is going to suffer loss. If you take the other decision, business is going to get hit today, but maybe in future business will recover. So in all those decisions, there is some sort of risk that is involved. Business decisions are not free of risk, right? You know it. Yes, I know that you know it already. So business decisions are always involving risk element. When you apply critical thinking, you actually have mitigated the risk because you have analyzed the situation from multiple aspects. From an overall aspect, you have analyzed the situation. You have not taken a decision on the basis of what is good for your department only, right? इस तरह से आपने decision नहीं लिया कि आपके department के तरफ से कौन सा decision अच्छा होगा. Applying critical thinking, you came to a decision which is good for the organization as a whole, not only for you, not only for your department. And that's how it can mitigate the risk associated with making decisions. Now, what is the second thing why it is important? It improves communication and develops team bonding, right? It improves communication because you are actually talking to people. You are trying to understand their perspective, their thought process by asking questions and asking opinions. You are gathering information from them. So लोगों को अच्छा लगता है जब आप उनको पूछते हो, अच्छा ये ना ये एक प्रॉब्लम है, मुझे क्या करना चाहिए, आपको क्या लगता है? So people would love sharing what they feel. People would love sharing their ideas with you. That way, it improves the team bonding as well. It improves the communication. So that's why it is so very important. And the third thing why critical thinking is important is that this is important for you. We are talking about career growth, right? So it showcases your leadership and managerial skill. लोगों को ये दिखेगा, ऑर्गेनाइजेशन को ये दिखेगा कि आप सोच समझ के डिसीजन लेते हो, हवा में बात नहीं करते हो, इम्पल्सिव डिसीजन नहीं लेते हो. So organization will trust you with difficult things, confidential things, things which are delicate in nature. बिकॉज जो सेंसिटिव इश्यूज होते हैं ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के, जो डेलिकेट इश्यूज होते हैं ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस के, ऑर्गेनाइजेशन सबको ट्रस्ट नहीं करता टू डिस्कस ऑन दोस पर्टिकुलर टॉपिक्स. बट बिकॉज यू हैव demonstrated your capability to critically think and then coming up with ideas, suggestions, opinions, organization will have trust on you. And obviously it helps growing in your career at managerial level, at leadership level. So it is very, very important. So let me know how do you feel on this particular aspect when we are talking on this particular subject. Now, the fourth part of our talk, and which is also the last part, how to develop critical thinking skills. So हम लोगों ने जाना कि critical thinking है क्या, हम लोगों ने जाना that why it is important. We have also talked about some practical aspects, practical situations, practical scenarios at workplace wherein critical thinking आप use कर सकते हो. Question is, हम इसको develop किस तरीके से करें? Again, there are so many different ways. I'm sure that if you search, you'll get so many different options. So for me, I picked up 3 best ways to develop critical thinking capability. Want me to share? Okay. Let us bring it on light. The first thing is you need to be open-minded while analyzing situations. कोई एक सिचुएशन आया आपके जॉब में एंड आपको यहाँ पे डिसीजन लेना है. डिसीजन लेने का टाइम में इट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट दैट यू आर ओपन माइंडेड. ओपन माइंडेड का मतलब क्या हो सकता है? Somebody has given you some judgment that the work that you have done is not up to the mark. You know, your project report that you have submitted has got so many flaws in it. It is not a well written project report. Now, as soon as you get that feedback, as human tendency we become defensive. अरे नहीं सर, क्या बोल रहे हो, मैंने इतना उसमें टाइम स्पेंड किया, मैंने इतना अच्छा काम किया, आप बोल रहे हो कि वो मतलब आई डिडंट डू अ गुड जॉब. दैट्स नॉट राइट. अगर आप क्रिटिकल थिंकर बनना चाहते हो, इफ यू वांट टू डेवलप योर क्रिटिकल थिंकिंग एबिलिटी, it is very important that you approach those situations and circumstances with open mind. आपको ये सोचना पड़ेगा कि हाँ, हो सकता है. Let me go deeper and understand that where are the flaws in my project report. Possibly आप उस इंसान को पूछ सकते हो कि thanks for sharing your feedback. Can you please help me identifying some of the areas wherein you think that I could have done a better job? And when you ask that question, I'm sure in 90% of the cases, the person who has given you that feedback will also be sharing the finer details and aspects wherein he or she feels that your project report could have been created in a better manner. So you need to be open-minded, the first thing, to become a critical thinker. What is the second thing? I mean, under open-minded, let us look into some of the aspects before we go to the second thing. So obviously we have talked about it, is be receptive. Receptive का मतलब है सुनो लोगों से, completely सुनो. Whenever people are sharing feedback, their opinion, their thinking about your topic, सुनो लोगों से. Avoid personal biases. What do you mean by avoiding personal biases in the process? Because ऐसा नहीं है कि अरे वो तो मेरे को पसंद नहीं करता, वो हमेशा मेरे बारे में ऐसा ही बोलेगा. इसीलिए वो बोल रहा है. So that is called personal bias. That means you are already having a bias against a particular person. So you आप ऐसा कान बंद कर दोगे when that person is telling you something. नहीं नहीं तुम्हारा नहीं सुनना, तुम हमेशा मेरे बारे में उल्टा ही बोलते हो. So that is called personal bias. So right, that's very important. You need to avoid that. Now coming to the second important aspect to develop your critical thinking ability is approach situation with objective logic. You need to apply logic to approach that situation which has come into play. And how do you develop objective logic? किस तरह से objective logic आप develop करते हो? By asking questions to the relevant people. क्यों है, कैसा है, किस तरह से है, कब हुआ, कैसे हुआ? All these questions you need to ask. And asking questions, detailed questions to people, multiple questions to people will help analyzing the situation in a better way. अगर आपको डिसीजन लेना है, सोल्यूशन लेना है, वो सॉल्यूशंस और डिसीजंस आएंगे जब आप प्रॉब्लम को अच्छी तरह से समझोगे. एंड प्रॉब्लम को अच्छी तरह से समझने के लिए इट इज इंपॉर्टेंट दैट यू आस्क क्वेश्चंस टू पीपल हु आर पार्टी टू दैट पर्टिकुलर सिचुएशन, हु आर स्टेक होल्डर्स टू दैट पर्टिकुलर सिचुएशन, हु हैव गॉट सम इंटरेस्ट इन दैट पर्टिकुलर सिचुएशन. आस्क देम questions. So asking question is important. The second thing that will help you to approach situation with objective logic is to use data to support your opinion. In today's world, as a part of critical thinking, you have the option of using data. Possibly आज से 10 साल, 15 साल, 20 साल पहले इतना आसान नहीं था डेटा यूज करना. आज के डेट में in the digital world, it is easier to gather data and use data. So before forming an opinion about something, as a part of your process of analyzing, use data. Gather the data and use the data. That's what will be very important in approaching the situation from objective logic point of view. However, one very important aspect, when you are asking questions, gathering data, you are talking to people to get more understanding about the problem, please be humble and be patient. ऐसे मतलब गुस्सा दिखा के don't try to collect data from people, right? So that will hamper your decision making capability. That is going to hamper your critical thinking capability. You need to keep your senses under control, keep your emotion under control. So that's why it is said that you need to be humble and patient. So that's the second thing. What is the third thing that you can do to develop your critical thinking ability? Here it comes. Before that, Mr. Yogesh, some comments. Yes, you are right. Should not be any ego. Thanks for sharing that. Ideas can come from anyone, so invite all. Yes. And you have also mentioned the importance of Kaizen. Yes, so that's a lean tool. I'm sure many of the audience here are aware of this Kaizen thing, which is how you solve a problem with a different way of working, different ideas. So thanks for sharing that, Mr. Yogesh. So coming back to the third aspect, third thing that you can do is use creativity to arrive at possible decision. So at the very beginning, we were actually हम लोग बात कर रहे थे, right? What are the 4 very essential leadership skills? And one of the skill that is very essential as a leader or as a manager is to use your creativity. Creativity का मतलब क्या होता है in critical thinking? In critical thinking, creativity का मतलब ये होता है कि आप think of a solution which nobody has tried till now. Think of a situation, think of a solution which is completely out of the box. Now, out of the box thinking, जो आज तक किसी ने use नहीं किया, obviously will have some risk associated, right? आप फर्स्ट टाइम कोई चीज ट्राई कर रहे हो, फर्स्ट टाइम कोई सोल्यूशन ट्राई कर रहे हो, ऑब्वियसली उसमें रिस्क तो होगा, रिस्क विल बी इन्वॉल्वड इन देयर. However, because in the previous two steps, you have gathered data, you have asked a lot of questions, you have analyzed the data, you have already taken steps to mitigate the risk को कम आपने already कर लिया. इससे पहले वाला दो स्टेप जो हम लोग बता रहे थे कि किस तरह से critical thinking skill develop कर सकते हो. So thereby in this step, when you are becoming creative and finding out completely new ways of doing things, you are also mitigating the risk. Yes, Yogesh ji, you are right. Out of the box thinking. So you are mitigating the risk by using critical thinking to arrive at a particular decision. So friends, so those are the three things that you can do. Let me share once again. You are supposed to be open-minded while analyzing situations. The second thing we talked about, approach that situation with objective logic. Logic का मतलब है asking questions, using the data to support your opinion, etc. And third thing हम लोगों ने क्या बताया कि use creativity. Creativity को use कीजिए to arrive at possible decisions, solutions, suggestions, opinions. So these are the three ways. इसको आपको प्रैक्टिस करना पड़ेगा इन वर्क सिचुएशंस. वर्क में कोई भी सिचुएशन आया, ये थ्री स्टेप आपको प्रैक्टिस करना है. एंड ओवर ए पीरियड ऑफ टाइम आप देखोगे कि आपका जो अप्रोच है टू ए पर्टिकुलर प्रॉब्लम, उसका तरीका बदल चुका है. द वे यू फाइंड सॉल्यूशंस टू प्रॉब्लम्स, दैट तरीका, दैट अप्रोच हैज इंप्रूव्ड एंड यू हैव अडॉप्टेड critical thinking in finding out solutions to problems. So friends, that's all. We have come to the end of today's session. It was fantastic talking to all of you. If you have any questions, queries, you can put it on the comment box. If it is coming now, I will read it now, or else I'll be reading it later on and I'll be responding to your comments. Thanks a lot for being here. Once again, I'll meet you next Sunday with one more topic related to your career and how you can utilize another skill to grow in your career and become a better professional. With that, take care of your health. Thanks a lot. Good night.